That would have had a huge impact, you know, if that had been, if the opposite had been the case, where that would have meant no accountability in effect.
Yes, I mean, the result would have been there would have been no recourse for these individuals who, and I don't think there's been much denial by the Ministry of Defence that there was mistreatment at these detention centres. That is not their case necessarily. They're not saying, well, actually, all these guys are lying. There's nothing like this took place at all. Most of the thrust of their attack in relation to this litigation was to say, first of all, well, the Human Rights Act doesn't apply in circumstances such as that. So, sorry, you know, there is to be no review. And secondly, well, OK, now you say the Human Rights Act applies. There's a limited, that what we can do, we can decide upon an investigative team and we can have the responsibility of looking at it properly. And the Court of Appeal have knocked them back to that degree quite substantially by saying, well, no. It has to be open, has to be transparent, and you have to be accountable. And that's the important thing in this case.
So the case hasn't been on, no, this hasn't taken place. It's, we are not actually accountable technically in the legal sense.
Yes, by and large. I'm sure the Ministry of Defence will dispute some of the facts that some of these claimants will raise. There'll be an element to that. But the main thrust of this is the Ministry of Defence saying, certainly before it went to the Supreme Court, that's what they argued at the House of Lords, what it was then called. They're saying at that point, well, no, the Human Rights Act just doesn't apply in this situation. I'm sorry, there is no purpose, there is no obligation on us to review because that took place over there by British soldiers, but not in the United Kingdom, and that's off the playing field, if you like. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about that effectively, and there shall be no accountability. And so that decision, combined with this, that this must be looked at independently, the House of Lords saying that, yes, there is a human rights obligation, even while soldiers are serving abroad and in those detention centres. Those are two very key decisions in recent times about the obligations of the government when it goes off on missions around the world, what their obligations are in theatres of war, and whether, in fact, they can act with impunity or not. And as this is shown, no, their actions will be reviewed by an independent inquiry.
What do you think the next steps will be? We're just getting to a close to this section now. What do you think the timeline will be in terms of the next steps?
Well, we should hear from, by the end of November, the Minister of Defence has to decide whether they will conduct a full judicial inquiry or not. Depending on that, what they do, the next steps will be decided by the legal team and by the society at large. I just wanted to make 1 or 2 points quickly. One is on the Human Rights Act. As campaigners and as a society generally, we should not relax. There are things we still have to do, and we shouldn't think that we are clear here in terms of protection for human rights. The Human Rights Act is one good thing which has happened in the past 10, 12 years, and we must strive to keep it. It has worked well, it has provided protection, and there are still things about extraordinary rendition, engagement of our troops in Libya, elsewhere, before that, cooperating with other regimes who are in torture. So there's a work to be done, and what I want to send message out is, don't relax, don't think everything is fine. One inquiry is just for this, but there are other matters to be dealt with.
So very quickly, how could somebody watching this programme, for example, help to safeguard the rights that are there at the moment? And how would they get involved?
Be part of campaigns, raise awareness through their MPs. There are a lot of organisations, Liberty, Justice, MCB, a lot of other organisations who are engaged in these activities. Be part of them and make sure that it is our heritage to protect and promote human rights and have a rule of law.
Well, on that note of call to arms, as it were, to carry on campaigning, there has been a silver lining in this tragic episode. The Court of Appeal has ruled that this investigation has not been sufficient, and indeed there will be further steps to ensure that justice does happen for the Iraqi people. Do join us same time next week. Don't forget you can tweet us. Also, you can watch us on YouTube. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you to all our guests.